Hello, my name is Justin Bright, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.2.2, in which I am attempting to make Kerbals a multiplanetary species. And we are just now, once again, landing Valentina and Garina Kerman, who are going to be helping to construct the Minmus Shipyards. So you may be getting a little bit of deja vu here as I bring this, the Minmus Hopper down, because I did this already. I already brought them over here. But I had to send them back because the new modules that I brought across and, that I had forgotten to bring the first time that I sent things out, have now arrived. And I didn't want them to starve to death while they were sitting 9 kilometers away from home. So I brought him back, and then I brought him back here, and it's an incredibly easy thing to do as far as the Delta V and navigation requirements are super easy, so I just omitted that, and we are now landing here once again. And as you can see, Garina has returned to duty. I had the same problem with Garina as I did with Jeslyn, in that when she flew away from Minty Station, she turned into a tourist because of her habitation timer became unset or something, I guess. Oh, shoot. Whoops. Yeah, I should probably, face up. Okay. But yeah, her habitation timer got unset or something like that, and it was, she turned into a tourist even though she was, coming from a really nice thing. I'm not 100% sure how that's supposed to work, or if that's not actually working correctly. Like, that may be completely intended behavior. Like, as soon as you leave a really nice ship, you just immediately are like, no, screw this noise. I was in something better a minute ago. Because I think that's what colony supplies are supposed to fix. Like, there's the medical bay, which you use colony supplies to turn someone from a tourist back into a, functioning member of society. But then there's also the colonization module, and there's the Duna and the Tundra versions of that, which do the same thing, I guess. I think those are supposed to extend your habitation timers just in general. So I'm not 100% sure what the deal is, or which one I was supposed to be using and wasn't, or used incorrectly, or whatever. One way or the other, getting her over here and close to the habitation modules that I already have was enough to get her back and working again. Garina, but not Jeslyn. I had to bring Jeslyn back home. So Garina is going to be the one that is going to be assembling the space. Alright, so got the screwdriver equipped. Let's get this moving. Alright, so there's going to be a lot of cuts on this. I'm trying to see if I like doing that more than I like, having the whole thing just like crazy fast forward yakety sax. Man, it is really difficult to get a hold of these modules. They're, 3.75 meters, so they're half of that in diameter. Kerbal Attachment System only allows you to reach 3 meters by default, so that makes it very difficult to actually grab and then place these things. Oh, okay, almost. Well, I could do that, but it might clip something and then go flying into the air, and that would be bad. That sort of works, but now I'm kind of underneath the crane module. There, that looks good. All right, let's try that. Okay, so that was a huge pain. There's no way that I'm doing that for this entire base. I thought that the construction mod was supposed to increase the range. Like, there's something in the configuration files about increasing the range, but I don't see that it's actually working. And I'm definitely not doing it with this. Oh god, I can't even reach to the top of that. Yeah, I'm going to, I think, be right back, and I'm going to try to fix this and see. Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah, I'll be right back. All right, I have returned. I have went in and modified things. Oh, the horror, or the cheating. But I have changed it so that the Kerbal Attachment System is globally 10 meters of reach. And that is better. I mean, the 3-meter thing is such a pain in the butt. When I was doing Minty Station and the Moon Cache Base and everything else, it was such a huge challenge to actually build anything with any range and like setting things up. Like I would know exactly where I wanted things, but I couldn't actually reach out and grab it and put it and do those things. And I was doing all these goofy workarounds of like running people around, and I had that team squad lift thing that I was doing where I had 5 Kerbals running from one piece to the other. It was just, it took forever. And that's not really what you want in this sort of activity. Like, it's already something that's kind of challenging and kind of difficult to do. You don't need to add tedium to the mix. So this is just me trying to eliminate some of this tedium. And I will say, speaking from the future, that 10 meters feels good. Like, it feels like I have a good amount of reach, but I still have to actually get in there. Whoops, I actually just disassembled that right underneath it. Let's just pop those apart. But yeah, 10 meters feels really good. I'm really enjoying the way that that feels. So we're just going to move forward with that from now on. All right, so what is next? Let's see. All right, well, I've got this kind of set up where... Oh, what angle is that going in? That is bizarre. Usually things, when you're grabbing them, actually pop in straight up and down off the bottom node, and that makes me worried that I'm doing something wrong. And rotate. No, hold on. See, I was off again. All right, one more try. There we go. That's what we're talking about. And I've got the legs extended enough so that it should hold things up pretty nicely, I think. All right, so you can see the 10 meter, whoops, that's out of range too. But you can see the 10 meter rule kind of coming into effect here, where I have to be pretty close, but not like right crawling up the thing. And it seems to work for the assist as well. I don't have to have the Hulk constructor lander, you know, sitting on top of every module either. All right, so what I'm constructing right now, this is going to be the factory component, the half of the base that is factory related. So in the back of this, we have 2 assembly plants. In the middle part, we have 2 industrial refineries. And in the front, we have the PDU, which is the power reactor. And then on the other side, we have the logistics module. So I've tried to kind of organize all the pieces such that they kind of make sense going together. And work well together. So the assembly plants are where we're going to be building our material kits and our specialized parts. The refinery is where we're going to be making all of our chemicals, polymers, and metal. Yeah, metals from the raw materials. Let's see, how do we get this across? Well, I'll just snap that on the top here. That's probably fine. The ground tether, by the way, is amazing. So there's an addition in one of the last couple of updates that Rover Dude put out for MKS, where he added a ground tether, which basically just kills all changes in velocity for things that are stapled to the ground. And it's meant for bases like this. And it just, I don't bump things. It doesn't pop in the air. I can just drop something on top temporarily and it feels fine. It's so good. All right, so anyways, that's the manufacturing section. Over here is I have a Kerbal Academy. I have a Kerbitat, which is going to be a water recycler. It's going to take in water and it's going to use that to be a powerful recycler. And I have the colonization module, which is going to help reset colonization timers over the long haul. So that's kind of the core of the big modules, and then I have some additional stuff that I'll be putting together and we'll talk about a little bit later on. But that should... There we go. Now I'm able to... That's my workaround for not being able to place things directly on the ground, like attached. Like you can actually put the cradle down nicely and then put the actual component on top of it, and that works out just fine. But yeah, I wanted to have it kind of separated and segregated and kind of look nice. nicely laid out and a little bit better planned, perhaps, because I had a lot of trouble with the with Minty Station, where it's kind of a hodgepodge that I did on the fly, and it looks like it. So hopefully this will look a little bit better and feel a little bit better as far as a long-term habitation, because I think this is going to be kind of a hub of activity for us in the future. I may have mentioned this, but I would ideally like to actually build my Duna colonization fleet here on Minmus. I think that would just be so awesome if I could do that and build it off-site and then not have to boost out of the gravity well in the atmosphere of Kerbin. I could just build purely vacuum-optimized boosters here for large lifters and things like that, and there's practically no gravity. All right, so what was my plan? Hold on a second. All right, to give you guys a little bit of insight into the way that I plan these sorts of base constructions and the way that I especially planned this one in particular, because I did something like this for the Moon Cache Base, I did something like this for Minty Station, but I didn't really hold to it on Minty Station, like I just kind of threw it together. But in this one, I tried to lay this out in every detail. So you'll notice that I have the same kind of shape you see here on the right. I have the assembly plant area with the assembly plants and the refineries, and then I have the big colonization slash habitation hub, and that goes off here to the left to an agriculture module and a habitation module that we will be using as the majority of our living space and plant growing space. Airlock over there, and then off on the right hand side on the far right we have a multi-hub that we use for workshops, and I'm planning on having the drillers kind of connect off to the right on that side. And this even has places for all of the different inflatable logistics modules that I'll be placing a little bit later on. They won't go exactly there, but that shows kind of the connection points and how I want this whole thing to work. So building like this in the VAB is so helpful before you actually go into the field and try to do it by hand. Unless you have a plan, then you end up with kind of a funky looking hodgepodge. All right, so that was an actual, that was something that I actually captured on my video recording, where I was literally just stopped for a minute to sketch out what I wanted this thing to look like and how I was going to lay it out and where I was going to put the storage bins and that sort of thing. So and I realized that I had things in a slightly different order and orientation than I wanted it. I wanted the habitation bit to be in the middle, and then I wanted to have the academy off to one side, and then the other thing to the other side. So I wound up actually going back and redoing a little bit of what I had already done, just to get it into a place that I was happy with it, because the goal of this base is to be something that I can use through the rest of this series as kind of a possibly literal launching point for materials, Kerbals. I want Kerbals coming in to train at the academy, and yeah, I want to be using this quite a bit. I don't want to just I guess the point of this series a little bit is not just to hey look, I built a thing, it looks like a base, and there it is, there you have it. I want this to be a living, functional thing that I can actually use in my career, that is not just something that is kind of neat looking that I did and hey, this was the goal and I did this thing and it's done. I want this to be something that I can use as a stepping stone to my next goal, which is going to be doing something similar on Duna. And well, that one will probably be a little bit more decorative, but the goal that I had in mind was having about 100 Kerbals on Duna. And they now have the ability to, Rover Dude has implemented the ability for Kerbals to reproduce, which is kind of neat. So that's an option that we have now as well. So in addition to just shipping out 100 Kerbals, I could actually have some homegrown, so to speak. Sorry, that was terrible. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking with as far as the goals that I have for this this series is I'd like to get stuff launched out to Duna and landed on Duna, and then I want to get that colony to be self-sustaining. I think one of the coolest possible things is hopefully by... Well, okay, so I was hoping that we'd be able to be self-sufficient as far as expanding the base from the early stages of the colony, because the less that I have to send out, the better. But I think that's going to require both extraplanetary launch pads and ground construction as it stands right now, because I don't believe that it's possible to... whoop, it's rolling. Oh, goodness. I don't believe it's possible to create DIY kits in C2 with MKS/ground construction yet. So I think the workaround there is just get extraplanetary launch pads, but we'll see. Alright, so you may have noticed that things have sped up dramatically. That's because it's time to do the waddle. So I'm throwing things into my inventory and waddling them over to connect them. Because the way that I wanted to construct this base is things are kind of built really way up high with the 3.75 meter modules, Tundra modules built on their side. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to actually have a way to get things on the ground, and so, or set up in such a way that just deploying them naturally, like deploying inflatables, will naturally have them sitting nicely on the ground, and the way to do that is with the anchor ball hubs. So I'm using that and some multi-trusses to get this kind of set up on the ground and lay things out on the ground. And then I'm also connecting all these bits together to start reducing the ship count in the area. Alright, so that's some of the initial connections finished, and you see I'm tweaking the ground anchor there a little bit, and things have slowed back down. Mellow it out, it's fine, everything's fine. So yeah, we're moving things over here. Now I'm starting to actually want to set up the other major layout item, like the structural element, I suppose. The next major structural element of my base is going to be these modules here, which were the ones that I forgot initially. And that's another reason why that planning that I had done, like where I actually laid out the entire base in the VAB, was super helpful, because it wasn't until I did that and I was thinking, okay, so the habitation goes next to the agriculture. It wasn't until I actually did that and went, oh, there's not an agricultural module in the plan that I have, or in the modules that I have sent. So I went and got that figured out. Okay, so as you can see, I even have a nice cupola here to set up for my Kerbals to have a nice place to look out and view the base and the minty flats around them. Yeah, so now we're setting up the agricultural modules and the habitation modules, and I'm going to have those kind of kind of tuck in their inflatable modules, so that one of them goes closer to base, the other one goes a little bit further away. And that should allow Kerbals that live here to be able to stay for like decades. That's the idea, is you want it to be long enough that you don't even have to worry about it, the length of time that they're going to live there. And the food situation is going to be handled by, I think, with this agricultural module and 2 inflatables. I feel like that's probably, and doing agroponics, I feel like that's going to be enough to cap out on processing all of the mulch. I'm only planning on sending 10 or 15 Kerbals out here to live and work, because this is going to be a functional base. Like, I'm not super worried about the income value and the geology that they're doing here, where they're actually increasing the planetary colonization rating. I'm not super stressed about that. It will make it easier to make things further on in the future, but I feel like it's probably, I mean, that'll kind of come naturally as we're doing stuff, right? So that's something I'm more concerned about doing out on Duna than I am doing here. And I've also found, at least so far, with the experiment with Moon Cache Base and with Minty Station so far, I have not been getting a huge amount of money. I've been getting a decent amount of science and reputation, which is nice, I suppose, but for the millions and millions that I need to like finish out the tech tree and do all of that stuff, it's just not been a humongous amount. I've actually been feeling pretty inspired by the successful return, although very inefficient return, of that 2.5 meter cargo container full of exotics to go bigger. So I think that's something that we're going to be doing in a future episode. I don't think I have time in the next 1 or 2 episodes that I'll be doing. I think I have that kind of all booked out. But what I'm thinking is that we're going to go bigger. I think I have plans for a 3.75 meter container, because that allows you to carry back about a little bit more than 3 times as much. I think about 4 times as much exotics, because when I looked at it in the VAB, it was going to be about 4 million funds. And I also have built so that 3.75 meter module is going to use the same reusable architecture and the nuclear tug that the 2.5 meter one did. It's just going to be a little bit heavier, a little bit dicier on the landing stage. Hopefully that'll all work out fine and wonderful and it'll never be a problem, but you never know how those things go. I also have plans for an ambitious and incredibly silly looking 5 meter manned variant, where we send a 5 meter tank with completely disposable liquid hydrogen engines, and I send it with a crew so that it can just land next to the drillers and then use KAS pipes to run the materials over that way, rather than trying to precariously perch a 5 meter container right on top. So I lost a little bit of footage just there, but what happened was I tried to move that lander a little bit, the drillers, to be in a better position, but I couldn't get it to quite work, and it was flying all over the place, and then I had to save and load a few times, and in the meantime it flipped the gosh darn Hulk constructor lander again. But I found a trick. If you saw there, I grabbed it and I placed it in a way that it would kind of be in between the legs where it was attaching, quote unquote, and so it just fell right onto its wheels. So much easier than what I did last time. Alright, and speaking of things flipping into the air, let's see what happens if I place this thing here. Boom! Yeah, that's not so good for precision placement. Once again, a lot of my limitations I find is how can I place things on the ground and get them up from their interaction point to the point where they're not clipping in the ground. So things like this with landing legs that extend down become an issue. So lost a little bit more footage. Do not know what's happening there, but we got it all set up. What I ended up having to do was move it piece by piece, like you saw me trying to do there, but it was successful eventually. I just had to close the legs and then put it down and then put the thing on top of it, and everything was fine. And then we got it all linked up, and that is drillers for silicates, for rare metals, and for a third thing. I had this problem last time. What is wrong with me? Minerals, rare metals, and silicates. Did I say that already? Oh my goodness, I'm losing my mind. But yeah, those are the last 3 things in the chain that we need to get this going, and we'll have some of it on site, and some of it will pull from Planetary Logistics, and that should be just fine. Alright, so as you can see in my building efforts, what I've been doing is I've basically been just like recording for an hour or so whenever I have time. That's why this one took most of the weekend and a couple days last week of me just like playing whenever I felt like it, to just spend some time quietly building this base, because I think all told I have about 6 hours of footage that I wound up capturing between the beginning and end of this whole base building experience. So yeah, it's fiddly and it takes forever, but I'm just really glad that I extended the attachment system range to 10 meters. The only thing left that I have to fix as far as fixing little issues like that is concerned is how do I fix this awful walk here? I guess it's just a matter of, bring your supply crates closer, put them on wheels so they can travel themselves so you don't actually have to walk things over. Because Kerbals can put things in their pockets, basically. That's not in the right node. There we go, just staple that to the top there. Kerbals can travel with big things in their pockets, and they just says it's in their back pocket, even though it's something that they definitely could not fit in their inventory, but that's actually fine. It's represents carrying something. So yeah, we're actually getting pretty close here, but yeah, we're actually solidly in the middle of the 6 hours of footage that I recorded, so I'll have a couple of episodes this week that kind of go through this process. I think I'll have one more after this one before I get a chance to actually play again. But yeah, this base is coming together very nicely. So we have a little bit more to construct here. I have a lot of inflatable modules that need to get attached. I've attached the main ones here, the habitation ones and the agriculture. I have all the storage stuff is basically what's left. And that's kind of a pain because you need 11 individual gigantic inflatable things, and I mean I could clip them all together and put them in a tower or something like that, but I don't like the way that looks, so I'm not doing it. But yeah, I just attached a comm lab there, which has that pretty well completed. You'll notice that the agricultural modules are not open because I goofed. And this was supposed to be, they were supposed to be greenhouses supporting an agroponics in the middle, and they're all agroponics. So I'm going to need to send in an actual engineer to change the modules because apparently mechanics can't do that. So yeah, once again, the limitations of the very cheap Kerbals. And of course you can't carry more than one of these inflatables at a time. Of course. Why would you be able to do that? That's fine. Yeah, so we have a little bit more construction to do. Then it's going to be, I think, thinking towards the future. The plan is to finish this base, get it up and running, ship out Kerbals to actually staff it and run the different facilities. I want to start making material kits. I want to start making specialized parts. I want to start engineering things and building stuff. And then it's going to be time to start making some money to finish out the tech tree. And finally, once we've got all that together, we can start planning to build our Duna colonization fleet. Awesome, awesome stuff. Very exciting. I'm super excited. But that is all the time I think I'm going to have for this episode. I will see you next time.